Welcome to the We Win Injury Law Podcast. I'm Tyler Todd, your host, sitting here with my co-host, Jaren, the Snow Canyon man, Sandberg. Good morning.
Good afternoon.
You had to say that. Did I offend you?
No.
Yeah, good afternoon to you.
I'm just so used to it. I had to throw it in there.
Good afternoon, everybody. Wherever you're watching or listening from, good afternoon to each one of you. That's rude.
Do you think our podcast is more digestible in the morning or in the afternoon, or are we like a late night fun watch after midnight?
It's probably like when you have nothing else to do and you're just, what can I listen to?
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe like to put them to sleep. It's a late night.
Yeah, we got to just whisper a little more, help you to sleep.
Welcome to the We Win Injury Law Podcast, where we read stories to you to go to sleep.
You put your fingers on the microphone or whatever what they call the ASM something.
I've listened to those. I've actually listened to a couple of those, where the just really low voice to go to sleep. That helps.
And then?
Yeah. It's called Sleepy, actually.
Like an app?
Yeah, it's like a podcast.
Oh.
And then I'm usually, then he's like, now it's time to fluff your pillow and get in that perfect position.
Yeah.
So I kind of shift a little bit, fluff my pillow, I'm like, settle in, and
there you go.
Now it's time to read to you.
That's great.
So now it's time for our podcast. This is an interesting one because I remember this, and it's crazy seeing him today still dealing with a lot of the injury suffered. This is Tracy Morgan, who was hit by a Walmart truck in 2014, June of 2014. Tracy Morgan being the famous SNL comedian, actor.
I just always remember him from 30 Rock. He was so memorable on 30 Rock.
Yeah. And he was great, and he's got that classic laugh and
Are you a Tracy Morgan fan?
Yeah, I like Tracy Morgan. Yeah.
I felt like on 30 Rock, it almost was like, okay, is he going to stop acting like Tracy Morgan? I don't know. I know it's so weird.
I was never a 30 Rock fan, so I can't say that I really watched him on 30 Rock. And it was, Alec Baldwin?
Yeah. Who I've met before, by the way.
Oh yeah, because in the Senate, when you were at
him and Kevin Spacey, they both haven't done that well.
No, they haven't done great.
Maybe after meeting me, famous actors should stay away. It's been downhill since.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, Tracy Morgan, I think he's funny, right?
He's funny. No, he's funny, but on that show, at least, it felt like they could have given him a little more depth on that show.
Yeah, I've always been more of a Dave Chappelle guy.
Oh, yeah.
Than Tracy Morgan.
Because it's clever.
Yeah. He's just funny in the way, maybe because it's Friday, too.
Yeah.
That when he was in Friday, it was funny. But Tracy Morgan, but he's funny.
He's funny.
He is funny. But this accident totally changed his life, and he almost died in it. So it's interesting to see what happened in that accident, how Walmart dealt with it. In fact, there's even another comedian that was killed in that accident, and Tracy Morgan suffered a traumatic brain injury, broken femur, broken ribs, broken nose. So it's interesting now, and obviously hindsight is always 20/20, right? But here we sit in 2026. We're talking about a celebrity, Tracy Morgan, that was involved in an accident in 2014.
Yeah.
And to see how he's recovered from the injuries. And we deal with this all the time in our injury world that we're in, because we try to tell insurance companies, the Walmarts, for example, in this case, hey, this is a big deal. And our client has suffered a catastrophic brain injury that's going to impact his or her life forever.
Yeah.
Has Tracy Morgan made a recovery? Arguably, no.
Yeah. Or at least not to that pre-accident status.
No,
by any stretch.
Now, I think he's stable enough or well enough that he was able to participate in that. Did you watch any of the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary thing?
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
And he was in that. But I think for the last 10, 12 years, he hasn't acted. He hasn't been able to do SNL or really anything.
Oh yeah, and this is the thing that's so funny is not only do we know the impact, but we have a little bit of a clock, right? So we have a 4-year clock in Utah and statute of limitations to file these. And some of our cases, I feel like by the 4-year mark, our client is like, and again, not that a lot of them last that long, but the ones that do, you can tell like some of them either learn to live with the pain, learn to, hey, my whole life has shifted and this is my new life. Or some of them, it like almost gives like more credence to like, hey, this is really affecting them. It's going to be permanent. But we don't ever get like these 10 year in the future snapshots. We don't have a time machine sitting in the office like, hey, I can really predict. But you can tell by year 3 if you're not better, by year 4 if you're not better. It's pretty easy to say this isn't getting better.
But yeah, we don't have a crystal ball, right?
Yeah.
We don't have that crystal ball or time machine that's going to enable us to say to the insurance company, yes, they will need this or they will suffer from this. So to some degree, there is some speculation. But when you have that type of injury, that's where I feel like the insurance companies really try to weasel out of accountability because they're like, oh, well, nobody knows. And true, to some degree, they don't know, but I feel like they should err on the side of let's make sure that they're covered. So here's X. And then if they don't need all of it, there is some level of, well, here's for the pain and suffering.
Yeah.
And here's for the hassle and trouble of our driver, our company, our negligence causing this impact to you and your family.
Yeah, and you think like the public policy behind it is so good. Like, who's in the better position to like do this? The insurance companies that have billions and billions of dollars that their client is the one that caused the harm, or the victim,
Right.
And so if there is we should err on the side of the victims. That should always be the
like
case.
skewing a little higher on the payout.
Yeah.
And it's so odd. We were just talking about this the other day, or maybe yesterday. It's crazy how the adjusters and defense lawyers take it so personally, like they're coming out of pocket.
They do.
And I'm like, look, we all have a job to do. We're doing our job. You guys have a job to do. We should be professional, cordial. And we're advocating for our clients, and you guys are advocating for your client. That's fine. But you're not coming out of pocket.
No, and your client's doing fine. Every time when I get hit with like 12 ads at the Super Bowl for State Farm and they're doing fine. They're doing fine.
And their CEOs and all their upper level like executives are doing fine.
When they get hauled into Congress and they're like, yeah, my compensation this year was $30 million, but I deserved it. And I'm like, you can err on the side of.
I think you can skew on the side of going a little higher on these payouts. So
they do take it personal though. You had quite the call where we kind of had a good laugh after that. He took it. This adjuster took it so personal, and you're. I think you gave him quite a few opportunities to like lower the temperature. And
I was trying.
He could not.
All right, got me to a point where I'm like, all right, enough of this guy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna start.
He couldn't see the forest from the trees. He represents this massive company, and he's the one of hundreds of adjusters. You represent a victim. This is their only case. This is the only compensation they're going to receive.
Right.
It's a very different dynamic on who we represent versus them.
And that's that was a good way of saying that. And then it's like, hey, have some level of appreciation on what what our clients are dealing with.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so frustrating, because in this case with Tracy Morgan and Walmart, there was a law. They had to file a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So what that tells me is the lawyers for Tracy Morgan and maybe the others that were involved and who survived, they probably tried to resolve it with Walmart.
Yeah.
They probably tried to resolve it pre-litigation, and Walmart wouldn't pay them what they thought the case was fair.
Yeah.
So they were forced to file a lawsuit against Walmart. Apparently their driver had been driving for over 24 hours and was drastically fatigued.
Egregious case.
Right? And then Walmart, and we see this a lot all the time, you guys, Walmart was then trying to shift the blame to Tracy Morgan and the other passengers in the vehicle for not wearing their seatbelts. Meaning they had some level of fault for the injuries they suffered.
Yeah, we do see this. And it brings up an interesting discussion, because me and you have had this discussion quite a few times, I feel like, about, because there's the seatbelt issue comes up, right? And I've got friends that like seatbelts are optional. I feel like that's almost like but we had a case where I think I had asked the client 4 or 5 different ways, like, oh, okay, the officer wrote you weren't in your seatbelt. Tell me about it. And he just had never given me a straight answer. And then in his deposition, finally said, like, oh, well, some coffee had spilled because they were slowing down, which was the reason they got rear-ended, was traffic was slowing down on the freeway. There was a car on fire, and so everyone was slowing down. And it spilled some coffee and was reaching down to, like, pick it up and hurried and unbuckled, and that's, like, when they get rear-ended.
Right.
And so we had this conversation of, like, gosh, if there's ever a reasonable reason to unbuckle your seatbelt is to hurry and grab spilling coffee off the floor.
Or off of you. Yeah.
Or off of you. And so I think, like, does it affect the case in a major way? It didn't affect what the driver did. He didn't, well, I'm fatigued. Oh, they don't have their seatbelt on, so I can hit them. You know, it has nothing to do with the facts of how the accident happened.
Yeah, and they do it in our cases. They did it here in the Walmart v. Tracy Morgan case. So that, again, and that's when we always tell people, like, look, we don't want to pat our backs or we don't want to seem like we're self-serving, but you do most oftentimes you need an injury lawyer to navigate those issues of seatbelts or apportionment of fault, or really hold Walmart or corporations or insurance companies their feet to the fire, because I think they eventually reached a settlement.
Yeah.
It did not go to trial, but the case resolved itself sometime around May of 2015, approximately 11 months after the lawsuit was filed. Well, I don't know exactly what, I think the crash was in June. I'm not exactly sure when the case was filed, but so sometime around a year. So they probably got through some discovery. They probably did some depositions and then resolved the case with a confidential settlement. But reports are and estimates are that it was somewhere in the range of around $90 million.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know that to be certain, but
because it's confidential.
But Tracy Morgan, being a celebrity, actor, comedian with a ton of potential lost wages, right?
Yeah.
He was probably able to demonstrate that the brain injury affected his career, which maybe he was going to make $30 million over the next however long, right, of acting.
Well, and I don't know if the $90 million is combined with also the other comedian as well, but the loss of life to them too. And we deal with these cases sometimes where when you deal with wrongful death cases, we go back and forth. I mean, you've had this discussion before. It's like, which is worse, the wrongful death or the lifelong of injuries? And on the one hand, you'd argue the loss of life is so much worse. You've lost this loved one. And on the other, it's real easy to say, I'm going to deal with these physical limitations and pain and different things for the rest of my life. It's almost worse. It's like with the death penalty or something, which is the worst punishment, the life in prison,
right,
or getting the death penalty. And sometimes I almost wonder if the life in prison's a lot worse of a punishment.
Well, for sure. And when you have physical disabilities, right, you have to have somebody to tend to you.
Yeah.
And typically that's a spouse or children, adult children, friends, if you don't have family members.
Yeah.
Care centers, right? And I think it's just human nature. We all have this feeling of, I don't want to be a burden.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a burden to anybody. And so when you have those physical disabilities, you are a burden.
Yeah.
Now, I think most people would say, I would hope, right, if I became disabled and my wife had to take care of me and vice versa, we wouldn't view it as a burden, right?
Yeah.
It would it's hard.
But if you're the victim, you're viewing yourself as a burden too,
You're
which
viewing
plays
yourself
into
as
it.
a burden. And
you've done these life care plans. We do that on some of our cases. You've seen these. Depending on the severity of the injuries, the cost of having a caretaker as opposed to a family member,
right, it's significant.
It's insane how much that costs.
But if that family member then has to not work to tend to the disabled, whoever, then that takes away obviously from their income capacity.
Yeah. And not only do we have the injured person's loss of income, but then now that other person has such a more significant burden to take care of them, that the costs skyrocket very quickly. And people don't appreciate that until it's themselves. And then they're like, wait, to put grandma just in like a mid-level care center is going to cost me this much per month. And they're like outraged.
Yeah.
But
well,
then
it is, and it's so expensive. Everyone knows that. We're all shopping. Everyone's shopping insurance every time. Healthcare in America right now is especially if you're looking for a daycare, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking, I don't know. I should have said that,
but it's expensive.
It's expensive, and the money behind all this, the programs and all that, it's expensive. So that's why we're fighting for our clients, right? And again, we don't have a time machine, we don't have a crystal ball. It's hard to really say what that person may or may not need. We're not saying the insurance companies don't have some arguments there, but why they should skew higher in favor of the victim, not the at-fault party who, in this particular case with Walmart, was super fatigued. Walmart didn't obviously take accountability, and then they probably denied liability. Then they were probably like, oh, well, we have systems and processes in place, which is total BS, which is why they settled for us up to the tune of somewhere around $90 million or whatever it was. We see that all the time. I had a client, I was texting with a client and communicating with a client yesterday that we resolved the case about, it was 5-6 months ago, and then I was just told that the client's going to need surgery. And fortunately, we were able to get enough money that that's not going to be an issue, because we calculated that into the settlement amount. It just stinks, because maybe then you're like, oh, should we have gotten more if we knew for certain that surgery was going to happen within the next 6 months? Maybe we accounted for it, but then
no, and
it's always that question mark.
But that future care is so hard. We just had a case where we just settled that the actual cost of medical care was less than $3,000, but the clearly a torn shoulder and was going to need surgery, and so the whole case was premised on future care that had been about by the time he even retained us, it had been over a year, I think, but since the surgical recommendation, and we had to renew some of those things just to make sure it was still out there that he would still need the surgery. But just interesting how those facts work, where you don't know if your client's going to really get surgery in some cases. In other cases, it's very clear they're going to need it. And then in others, their doctors are trying everything else but surgery, and then they still end up in surgery.
Right. Well, hopefully, again, you need an injury lawyer if you guys have been injured to just at least fight for those things and identify. You said something earlier, life care plan. A lot of people don't know what that is. That's when you identify and find doctors that are able to at least substantiate to some degree, some degree of probability that you're going to need future care. That way you can present to the insurance companies. That's probably what Tracy Morgan's lawyers did. It's a good example of corporate negligence and then denying accountability, trying to shift blame. And that's what we do. We literally do that every day, trying to fight for our clients. So that type of stuff doesn't happen to our clients. So hopefully Tracy Morgan got a good resolution. Who knows when it all shakes out. And hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
Now we're 2026. That accident was 12 years ago. He doesn't seem great. I've seen him on the sidelines of basketball games, and you're like, that's not the same Tracy Morgan.
Yeah, it's just how it affects you. Yeah.
You guys, we're going to talk a little bit, go a little bit more in depth on the next podcast about what injury cases look like, what is personal injury, why it's important to have a personal injury lawyer. So tune in, subscribe, share. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully Tracy Morgan gets it back. That guy's funny.
Yeah. He's got a funny, a very interesting sense of humor. It's very unique.
He's unique.
Very unique.
He's got
comedy.
That deep. He's a funny dude.
You know what? He's one of those comedians though that seems like he would be super fun to hang out with.
Right.
Like some of them would make me nervous. Like they'd always be burning you, but he just seems like he's having a good time.
A funny, good guy. Well, hopefully he gets it back. Anyways, you guys, until next time, stay classy, everybody. Leave early, slow down, be safe.